So there's a new podcast in the description that I forgot to mention. Spoke on some of my League Pass teams for this upcoming season, and then I watched Annihilation again, and I liked it way more. And now, let's preview the Milwaukee Bucks, because I think it's about time to start previewing each NBA team, because what the hell else is really going on in the offseason now? A lot of the big stuff has already passed us by. So, the Bucks are interesting. Mike Budenholzer addition as a head coach, I think that is a plus over Jason Kidd and Prunty, and that should make them better, have them moving the ball more often. Perhaps Giannis will actually move off the ball some, and there won't be sometimes dumb substitutions or leaving guys in for too long, playing Tyler Zeller too long, that kind of thing. We're going to assume a lot of that is gone. They've also added Brook Lopez and Ersan Ilyasova, some shooting up front. Jabari Parker is gone, and while I can understand thinking that might not be the best for them like 3 years from now, given Giannis's contract situation, not really in a position to play for the future too much longer now. Like, you kind of got to win right now because you want to ensure that you're not staring at Giannis's unrestricted free agency with a 45-win team. And while I don't love the roster, I do think there's potential for this team to be actually pretty damn good, and maybe the fourth or perhaps even third seed in the East if they surprise a bit, and if one of the top three seeds maybe disappoints a little bit, whether that's Embiid's health not totally being there, or Kawhi just not being fully invested in the Raptors. So I think I do want to start with Brook Lopez, who was a hell of an addition for them, and I did forget him in the free agency video that I recently did where I talked about underrated signings. He should have definitely been in there. Getting him for only $3 million a season is a hell of a bargain because I think he's better than Thon Maker. I think he's better than John Henson, and while Maker might have more potential because of his versatility on defense and hopefully he can make threes, Lopez is going to give you more right now, right? He can post up, he can attack switches. His shooting hasn't been like amazing the past 2 years. It's been like league average or a bit under league average, but his mid-range is still very good, and I think that could help out the spacing with this team a decent amount. It's not amazing, but it's definitely better than just having a clogged up lane where Giannis can't just attack all the time, right? Although, to be fair, it doesn't seem like Lopez is the best on long two-pointers. For these past 2 seasons, it's more like around 15 feet he's great, and then from 3 he's pretty solid as well. So that's good. It's not amazing, but it's definitely better than the average center when it comes to spacing. You could see some Giannis, Brook Lopez pick and pops. Lopez also knows what he's doing in terms of just like chilling around the basket and getting passes from whether it be Bledsoe or Middleton or Brogdon or Giannis, of course. So that's good. I expect Lopez to average something like 15 points, about 5 rebounds, because he's not a good rebounder. We have to remember this. And defensively, I think he can hang around. I don't think he's as bad as some other centers. Like I think he's better than Monroe. I think he's better than Cantor. I think he's closer to like, I don't know, whatever like average NBA defensive center you can think of. I think Brook Lopez is in that category where most of the time he'll be fine. Sometimes he's going to get killed, so you got to pull him out, and then maybe Maker can be a little better at defending the perimeter. But it's still not bad, especially for the contract that Lopez got. So that's a good addition. Also, Ilyasova should provide some spacing as well. Middleton's going to stretch the floor. Snell can hopefully just figure it out again because he was really bad in the playoffs, just from like a mental side. So if he gets all that figured out, and I think Budenholzer can help him because Snell might be one of those guys where if he never touches the ball, then he could like get kind of disengaged and he's not able to shoot as well if he hasn't like felt the ball for like 5 minutes. Whereas in Budenholzer's system, there's a lot of movement, right? So Snell could like come up from the corner, get the ball, then he could hand it off to someone, then he could set a screen. Like he's going to feel more involved, right? Could also get him some more cut opportunities and could just make him feel more a part of the team, I guess, which I can understand with the offense pretty much just being Giannis, Bledsoe, and Middleton towards the end of last season, I can understand why Snell maybe was a bit out of his head when playing with the team. So Coach Bud should help him out there. Coach Bud should use Ilyasova and Lopez's shooting abilities pretty well. I imagine we're going to see Giannis doing a lot of something, whether that's sometimes pick and rolls, setting screens, cutting, doing whatever the hell. I mean, I don't know. The potential is really limitless with Budenholzer and Giannis, as far as I'm concerned. So you're just going to probably see a mix of everything, whether that's Giannis playing center sometimes, acting as the point guard but defending the opposing team's power forward. He's going to do a whole lot of weird stuff, and most of it's probably going to work because Giannis is he's one of the best players in the league. And I do think it's pretty crazy that for a team that was so whacked out last season, they still managed to be 7th in offense. Now, to be fair, the difference between 7th and 13th in offense is only like 0.7 points. So they could have easily been mid-tier, but they still were able to be not a disaster offensively without a real system or anything. So now that Budenholzer's got them doing real stuff, I mean, if you look at the top 5 offenses last season, Cleveland's definitely going to drop out. Denver's going to improve, but I could see Milwaukee lingering around number 5 or 6 offensively next season, as long as there aren't any drastic fall-offs. And I think the one where it could happen is Bledsoe, just because he wasn't good in the postseason, and I don't know, he's not a perfect fit here. I think there was a belief that even though he's not the best shooter in the world, he'll still make up for it because he'll just attack the basket like crazy and he'll be awesome on defense. And it hasn't been bad, it just hasn't been that great either. What would be the ideal point guard next to Giannis? Someone like Kemba Walker, okay, who could play off of Giannis, but then also could really do his own stuff as well. So, I mean, they're going to have to deal with what they got with Bledsoe. It's not bad, it's not great, it is what it is. But hopefully he can just be a mid-tier point guard, move a little bit more off the ball. Again, Budenholzer should have him doing that. And overall, I mean, whatever, it'll be what it is. Defensively now, if we get to these guys, the defense was not the best. They were 17th last season. Coach Bud made those Hawks teams excellent defensively. Now, he doesn't have Al Horford and Paul Millsap this time around, but he does have Giannis. And whether that's putting him sometimes on the opposing team's best player or putting him on the other team's worst shooter so he can just roam around, combined with just a good philosophy overall. And I mean, Bledsoe still has potential to be that really good defender that he was in Phoenix and with the Clippers. It didn't really happen last season. Maybe it would under Budenholzer. Snell is decent. Thon's got potential. Brook can at least not be a disaster. Ilyasova at one time has been a good defender. Middleton's good. Brogdon is decent. There is potential for these guys to creep up there into maybe being the 11th or 10th best defensive team in the league, right? Or maybe even a shade below that. Let's say if these guys can be somewhere between number 7 and number 12 or 13th in both offense and defense. That is a decent team, you know? And maybe they end up being really good at one side of the floor just because of Coach Bud and Giannis getting a little better. And then before you know it, this team is actually scraping 50-something wins. It's a possibility. Now, the negatives to this are Brook Lopez and Ilyasova are a bad defensive front court. Giannis can't make up for the fact that, Middleton... Well, not really Middleton and Snell. I think they'll be fine, but Bledsoe, right? If Bledsoe isn't good, and then Lopez and Ilyasova aren't good, then it really doesn't matter what Budenholzer does, they're not going to be good on defense. Also, there's a chance that this team gives up 1 million offensive rebounds, because you got Maker and you got Lopez, who are going to be playing a lot of the minutes at center. And I did a quick search on NBA.com. I did NBA centers who played at least 16 minutes a game last season and played at least 60 games total. And then I categorized it by defensive rebound percentage and, basically, Brook Lopez, second worst in the league, behind his brother, funny enough, and then Thonmaker, fourth worst in the league. So, yeah, that's not exactly good, and they may be forced to go to John Henson, and when you have to be forced to go to John Henson, you could have some problems. So, I guess my fears with this team are mainly on the defensive side of the floor. Offensively, I expect them to be pretty damn good. And, yeah, now, as far as total wins, well, they won 44 last season while being a complete mess in the head coaching department. And Malcolm Brogdon actually missed like a decent amount of the season, which is quietly like kind of a big deal for them. So I would say we could probably see these guys approaching around 50 wins, maybe even get a little bit over 50 wins, especially because they're in the Eastern Conference and there's some bad teams at the bottom that I'm sure that they can beat up on. So I think I'm going to go with like 51 wins for the Bucks. A 7-game improvement, mainly because of Budenholzer and Giannis, because I still don't really love the roster, but yeah, improvements on offense, marginal improvements on defense, rebounding is going to be a problem. There you go. There's the Bucks for you. And then once again, new podcast. League Pass teams, Annihilation, second viewing, and that's it.